Alan Williamson, what is your favourite game?
My favourite game is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So let me think. It must have been, I think it was 1992. So I would have been about 6 years old. And
I would have been a year old.
Oh,
Baby Johnny.
Oh, showing my age. But it was 1992, back in those days when it was acceptable to like things like Teenage Mutant Turtles, and back when Ghostbusters was a cartoon show as well as a movie. And I was looking through the Argos catalogue for like Christmas present ideas. And I kind of came to this page. There was two games consoles, and on one page they had the Mega Drive with Sonic. On the other side they had the Super Nintendo with Mario. And I kind of went, and then eventually I just thought, yeah, I'll go for the Mega Drive. It sounds good. And that was pretty much it. That was just me. That was just me getting started. And then from then I just became a kind of diehard Sega fan up until about 2001. When you couldn't be a Sega fan anymore. So, yeah, I don't actually know how I got into it. Like, I don't know what made me think, oh yeah, I really want one of these. Cause I was like, whenever I was really, really young, I was still into things like Lego, and I was really into construction tools and stuff. But yeah, just took a fancy to it, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, was there no kind of family influence? Cause I was talking to, Holly Nielsen the other day of Sky and Jinx, and, how her brother kind of influenced her getting into games.
I mean, not really. I mean, my dad was kind of supportive of it, and whenever he got the Mega Drive, you know, he got a selection of games he used to play with me and buy quite a lot of them. So he kind of catalyzed the whole thing, and luckily fueled most of the games because I was too young for minimum wage. So no, we used to play stuff together, like when we played the first Sonic after it came out, and I remember like he'd gone back to work after the Christmas holidays, but he left a note pinned to my bed saying, "Oh, Alan, I've made it to the Marble Zone." And I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "What's the Marble Zone?" It's like, you can get out of that forest. That's amazing. So a lot of that kind of early discovery stuff was just the two of us playing through it, you know, spending our Saturday afternoons through to Sunday evenings playing away at those things. And then I have three brothers, and as they grew up, we all used to play together and stuff like, you know, Streets of Rage and Micro Machines and those kind of games and stuff. So, I guess there's quite a lot of it in my family, but then I think like there's quite a lot of it in my generation. You'd actually be really difficult to find somebody who didn't play video games from, I don't know if I should say our generation, cause you know, you were only one at the time. So, not sure how many years makes a generation, but yeah, I mean, everybody in school was into it, and all of my friends in primary school and high school were into it. But yeah, I think it's probably me started it off, and then I got so obsessed with it that everybody just got dragged along for the ride, I think.
Was there any more kind of a gaming heritage for you besides Sega stuff? Like, obviously, I mean, PlayStation or Nintendo around that time as a kid.
I mean, I was always kind of a Sega loyalist. So I went from a Mega Drive and then to a Saturn and then a Dreamcast. And I kind of skipped the PlayStation and the 64. But obviously whenever you're a Saturn owner, everybody else is everything else. So you do get to play them all anyway. But I used to be like, I've always kind of been really into computers and technology. And, I still remember like trying to install games and like Windows for work groups on my dad's work laptop and stuff. And then we got a computer in about 97. We got a desktop computer for the first time, and so I then got into PC gaming. So stuff like Command and Conquer Red Alert was big, and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and then I kind of got into stuff like Quake 2 and Unreal and Half-Life, which was good because around that time, you know, the Sega consoles were kind of on the wane. So whenever I was getting into PC gaming, it was around 98, which is when the Saturn sort of faded into irrelevance.
And when the Dreamcast kind of started coming into view as well.
Oh yeah. Well, once I got the Dreamcast, I kind of did a bit of both. So I was still into PC gaming by that point, but I still really liked the Dreamcast. And then after the Dreamcast, I got an Xbox, and then after the Xbox, I went to university and so I could spend my student loan on games consoles. And then I got a 360 and a Wii, and then I got a PS3, and now I've just got a Wii U as well, because I'm one of these weirdos that bought a Wii U before a PS4 or an Xbox One. So, but I've got most of them now. I've got a PS2. I've got a PS2. I had a GameCube for a while. I had a DS and a 3DS, so I've pretty much accumulated most of them, and I spend quite a lot of my time going back through like the old Nintendo ones I never played.
Like what specifically?
At the moment, I am playing Mega Man 2 on the 3DS. So that game is as old as me, and therefore 5 years older than you. And so I've been playing it for the first time, like in earnest. So a lot of those games like Super Mario Brothers, original Legend of Zelda, been playing Ocarina of Time in the 3DS. So it's quite nice to look at it from a historical context, because obviously everybody that played Ocarina of Time at the time has really fond memories of it, whereas I don't. So you can kind of look at it slightly more analytically, and so you can say, oh yeah, I can see why people enjoyed this and stuff. So it's a fun way to play those old games. But like, I think Mega Man 2 still holds up really well. It's really apparent how really well designed it is and how good the music is and things. You can tell like those people were at the top of their game, so to speak, whenever they released it.
Were you that much of a Mega Man fan back in the day?
No, well I never played them because Mega Man was Nintendo.
Yeah, that's right.
Mega Man was a Nintendo thing.
That's right. Damn it.
Like, I mean, like anybody else, I played a few of them on emulators, but you know what it's like, you kind of dip in, you play like Mega Man X for 10 minutes, and then you play, I don't know, Yoshi's Island or Mario World for 10 minutes, but you never really sit down and play through the whole thing.
No, I guess not.
The only game I'd really done that with was like, things like Link to the Past and Super Metroid and Chrono Trigger. Like the SNES games I really, really like, so I think like, it's one of these things where whenever you pick you kind of choose your horse in those days, you either be on sort of Team Sega or Team Nintendo. People who are on Team Sega, they like things like, Shining Force and, I don't know, Mortal Kombat is one of those games that was always kind of better on the Mega Drive, but you've got stuff like Shining Force and Phantasy Star and, Thunder Force games and stuff, whereas people who are Super Nintendo fans like the kind of Square Final Fantasy games, Gradius and those kind of games, or Castlevania is another big Nintendo one. So it's just whatever way it plays out. Like the Mega Drive used to have loads of really good EA games. EA games used to be good, honest. So you had stuff like Road Rash, like when we were on the motorbikes, whipping people with chains and stuff. There's a lot of really good games by Treasure and Konami. So you've got like Rocket Knight Adventures and Gunstar Heroes, those kind of things.
And the original Metal Gear games as well, before Metal Gear Solid as well.
Yeah, they were Konami. Yeah, they were Konami for the
the NES and SNES.
The first two came out on the NES, but they are ports of MSX games, which is like a Japanese PC. But yeah, Metal Gear's, to me, I associate Metal Gear with PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually playing through I got the entire Metal Gear Solid Legacy, so I'm playing the first Metal Gear. That's another game that I think is just outstanding. It's like really kind of timeless and funny and just really, really expertly done. But it's nice to play these things. I don't feel like I missed out by not playing Metal Gear back in the day. But then I have to play 2, 3, Peace Walker, and 4. So, if you want a podcast again in about 10 years, I should have finished the entire Metal Gear saga.
Well, me and John Brady did talk about Metal Gear Solid 2, recently, so, you can tune in for that.
Is it full of spoilers?
It's full of spoilers, so yeah, actually, in the second part, probably not.
I'll wait. Well, I'll wait until I finish 2, and that'll be a lovely treat.
I feel you should definitely play it, give them 2 and 3 a chance. So I've not finished Peace Walker, so I can't openly talk about how Peace Walker either deserves or doesn't deserve a chance. Although, critical mass says, yeah, give it a shot. But
yeah, I mean, it gets a good write up. And you can play the missions co-op over like PSN and stuff. So it's I think it's meant to be pretty good, but 3 definitely has the reputation for being the best one.
Oh, before The Last of Us, Metal Gear Solid 3 was my favourite game ever.
What's your favourite game, Johnny Gullen? Just gonna sit and interview yourself.
I think on that note, let's move on to how you professionally got into the industry. Like, talk your start out basically.
Where do you start? So I told you about my dad's old laptop, the Windows 3.1 banger that belonged to the Northern Bank, which you will know, now known as Danske Bank.
But for those who don't, that's a bank in Northern Ireland. It's probably worth knowing. Me and Alan are both from Northern Ireland. If that
surprise,
yeah, derp.
I'm trying to be medium Irish. I'm trying not to go full Northern Ireland. Like, where's it going, Johnny? You know, I'm
lad.
It's just hard because you start to go down the slippery slope of Irishness where you get excited that you're talking to somebody Irish and they're not going to fight with you, and you speed up and you start using local slang. But yes, so this was a Northern Bank laptop, and all it really had was Microsoft Office because it was a work laptop. And so I used to make my own game magazines on this laptop, and I used to it was all done in beautiful Comic Sans in a size 18 font, and I would write down all the games I played and give them all marks out of 100, like the way all the magazines I used to read did. And so I kind of grew up in things like Mean Machines and Mega Drive Advanced Gaming, which is it was slightly more of a niche one. I forget who published it. Possibly I
think it was
Mega Drive Advanced Gaming was Maverick Magazines, they were called. But I don't know if they were a kind of weird niche one because I couldn't tell you any of the writers still being around today.
But,
unlike Mean Machines, which is like Jazz Rignall and people like that.
Oh,
so.
yeah. I was going to say Jazz and Richard Ledbetter as well.
Yep. But then I went from that, and then I got like the official Sega magazine, which then morphed into Sega Saturn magazine, which I still think is one of the best produced and downright funniest things ever. And also like PC Gamer, the UK one from about sort of 97 through to about, 2003 was pretty influential to me. So I used to make my own magazines, and then I guess when I was about sort of 15, 16, you would have been, I can't keep doing this.
What year then? Like, give me a rough ballpark. What year is this then we're going to know?
16, so probably you're talking about 2001.
Oh, I was 10.
You're about 10 at this time. Yeah. You were the kid I was bullying in school. No, not really. Don't be silly. I'm a game journalist. I was obviously bullied in school. And, so yeah, I started getting into like, writing reviews for game FAQs and GameSpot. We could do user submitted reviews.
Yeah.
And I got bored while revising for my GCSEs, so I wrote a walkthrough for Echo the Dolphin, which is actually still the most comprehensive Echo the Dolphin walkthrough in game FAQ. It's a bit of a niche market, but I totally cornered it. And, so I kind of got into that, and then I started, writing for this site called Extreme Gamers, I think it was called. Obviously Extreme with no E and then one big X. And then from that I didn't really do a lot. I did a little bit of writing and you got a couple of free games, but it wasn't like professional in earnest. No. And then it was only when I went to university, I started writing for the student newspaper. And it was John Herman, he now writes for The All. He's done everything. He did Gizmodo, BuzzFeed, Popular Mechanics, so he's now at The All, but he was the one who kind of said, you should come along this and do some writing. So I did a bit for that, and then I edited the text section, and then after that I started a blog called Split Screen, with my friend Craig. That blog is now 4 years old in September, which is pretty scary. And I kind of thought, I'll just start this blog and it'll be really good and it'll be really different and people will just throw jobs at me. That's obviously how this thing works. And now it may surprise you to know that did not actually work. But I still got a bit of writing off the side, and I just kind of did various bits and bobs for sites. I did a bit of writing for Strategy Informer. And then off the back of my split screen blog, I did a personal blog. Then I wrote a piece about this really horrible instance of sexism in the Sun. And then I got reblogged in the New Statesman, which is kind of my first big break, if you like. And then through the back of doing a lot of work for sites like Nightmare Mode and Critical Distance and kind of building an audience on Twitter, I launched my own magazine, which is 5 out of 10. We launched that in November 2012, so it's been going for nearly 2 years now. And then after that, I started doing proper freelance journalism. So I've had a couple of commissions like Eurogamer since then in places. So I kind of did it backwards. I kind of self-published and then thought, I should probably do some freelance stuff. Why not?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never done it professionally. I've always done it as a side job. So I used to work in like Apple retail and now I work for the University of Oxford. So it's never been a full-time job for me. It's always been a kind of really enjoyable hobby, but I always wanted to do it. I've always kind of been writing about games at various levels of quality, but I've always been doing it. So like I don't know, at this point it doesn't really feel like a choice anymore, you know? It just feels like something I wouldn't say born to do because that's really cheesy, but I feel really compelled to do it.
Talk about 5 out of 10 as a whole, and like the like specific angle of the magazine, because like you've had plenty of easily to say awesome writers write for it.
Yeah, it's pretty staggering now when I look at the about page. I'm like, whoa, it's like playing Pokemon with your favorite writers, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, we kind of founded it, and it was off the back of a lot of people who were doing what I thought was professional grade writing for free at blogs. And so the idea was like, how can we take all of this work and all this really, really, good, worthwhile, professional standard writing, how can we do that and get people paid for it? So the idea was that we wanted to do something really different. So it was content that people weren't publishing anywhere else, but that it was going to be like, we were actually going to charge for it. So it was going to be, worthwhile for the writers, but also that we were going to fairly pay the writers. So one of the things that we do is that we do revenue sharing. So instead of people getting a set fee, that means they can make as much as we sell. So that means that like 2 years later, I'm still paying the people from like the first issue because we just got into the video game story bundle. So it was more about, something that was different and something that was really inclusive. And, so we always tried to get, well, we tried to, but it's hard, but we always try to get it like at least sort of 50% women in every issue, which is difficult when you've only got 5 authors. But, you used to 2.5. Though we've been trying to get as many minority voices as possible, just because it makes a more interesting publication. And, I think it makes something that the more broad experiences you have, the more well-rounded the magazine is. Because I don't particularly want to read about the experiences of people that are just like me. I want to know about, different people. I want to know what their lives are like and what their opinions are. And that's what I find really particularly interesting about it, is getting all these pitches and getting to read all these fantastic stories from people. Yeah, over the first year we did 5 issues, and then we did a charity issue for Special Effect, and that was the one where we had really good writers, like as opposed to the standard good writers. We got some really established freelancers, so we had like Christian Donlan, Lee Alexander, Matty Myers, Helen Lewis, Joe Martin, and Dan Griliopoulos. And the reason they were in was because I felt like I could ask them to write for free and give their fee to charity. So that's been going really well. And then we also launched our first book in June, which is one I wrote. I co-wrote it with Caitlin Tremblay, who's now the managing editor of 5 out of 10. And it's all about Unreal, which is not my favorite game, but it's certainly a very good one.
Yeah, I was going to say like kind of having all those awesome writers, like Donlan's one of my current heroes. So
current heroes.
Yeah, well, like I've already had 3 kind of writing heroes, like Tim Clark, Pat Garrett, Tom Bramwell, but like Donlan's kind of one of my inspirees in terms of freelance journalists, and like having writers like that kind of definitely helped with putting the magazine up to a whole new level.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, honestly, the people that we've had writing for us, like, have all been really, really consistently excellent. And obviously, Chris Donlan's very good. That's not to say that he's substantially better than any of the other writers we've had. They just happen to have a lot of recognition, and they're good at what they do. So I think it is good because you do get a certain draw from having like high profile writers in there, because like it or not, writers have personalities and writers do become kind of celebrities in a sense, and that's the kind of clout you need to drive things forward, if you like. But I think that it's really good because then it means that people look at the thing in a whole new light and think, oh no, this is really good, and actually all the writers here are worth paying attention to, And we've had people who like other writers who are pretty well known, like with Brendan Keogh, who obviously has done loads of work and he's published books and things. We've had like Chris Legman and who's for Gamma Sutra. So there's some pretty high profile peeps, if you like. And I'll not tell you who's coming next because I like to keep people in suspense. But we have quite a few established freelancers going in as well. So, but I'm really happy with where it's going, and it's nice that like it's really kind of humbling when you've got some of your favorite writers, saying, yeah, of course I'll write for you. It's amazing. But what's really good is that you can take something you've made and actually generate some good out of it. So the fact that we're able to actually raise quite a substantial amount of money for charity, I just think was really good because that's out of nothing, in the space of a year. So it's good that you can do a bit of good for writers and people who should have been paid but either never thought to ask or whatever, couldn't get a freelance break. We're able to sort them out as well.
Your favorite game ever? Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Yeah, I kind of had to, it's like, picking a favorite Sonic game for me is like choosing between your kids.
Sophie's choice.
Yeah, so, it kind of is. Cause like, the first game I ever like really played was the first Sonic the Hedgehog, so obviously it's got a soft spot in my heart. And Sonic 2 was like, it was kind of out around the time that I got into gaming. So I kind of missed the launch of it, but obviously I really liked that too. But Sonic 3 was the first game I was properly hyped for. It was the first thing I'd read about in magazines that, it's a new Sonic game, it's amazing. And like, so, there was a lot of buzz around it in school, and I only used to get games around the time of my birthday or Christmas. At least it was the only time I felt like I could ask for them. And, so I think Sonic came out a couple of weeks before my birthday, and one of my friends had it and was telling me how great it was, and, so it was like, it was a really big deal. But then the thing with Sonic 3 is that it doesn't actually make that, it feels insubstantial in its own. It feels like an obvious kind of step forward from Sonic 2, but it's actually quite truncated, and that's because the game was so big that they had to split it into two different parts. So you've got Sonic 3, which came out in possibly 93 or early 94, but you've got Sonic and Knuckles that came out late 94. And the cool thing about it was that you could flip the top of the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge into Sonic 3. Flip up the top of Sonic and Knuckles, plug in Sonic 3, plug that thing into the Mega Drive, and, hold it in place with some scaffolding, and it turned them into this mega uber super game. But you didn't actually, whenever Sonic 3 came out, I didn't know that was going to happen. And so you'd play through it and you'd do stuff like, if you played it a few times, you would cheat your way in and you would find these whole sections of levels that you couldn't actually access. There was no way to get into them. And that's because the game was designed from the ground up so you could play through it as Knuckles. So whenever you play through the game as Sonic, it's all really good. But then once you play through as Knuckles, suddenly he burst through a wall. The Sonic used to run up, and then you're into a cool new section. So it's like they'd hidden all the stuff under the surface of the game for the release of Sonic and Knuckles. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever.
That's kind of really unheard of, the kind of cartridge upon cartridge aspect of it. It's kind of like, hey dog, I heard you like cartridges.
Heard you like games, so we put a game in your game so you can game while you game. Well, it's not totally unprecedented because you used to get cartridges like the Game Genie and the Action Replay, and essentially they're basically hex editors. So you plugged the game in and it passed through this cartridge, and you could edit the memory locations of the game. So you give yourself, infinite rings or infinite lives or skip to a certain level just by altering the memory of the cartridge. And unfortunately my cheat cartridge didn't work with Sonic 3 and Knuckles because you couldn't stack them 3 high. It just didn't work. So it's kind of an extension of that, but what was really seems impossible was that you could plug Sonic 2 into it, and you could play as Knuckles in Sonic 2. Damn. And I was just like, how's that even possible? How did they do that? That game came out a couple of years ago. And you couldn't do it with the first Sonic, but it was some pretty incredible technology. It was just the fact that the actual cartridge was so massive. It's probably something like 54 meg or something ridiculous for a Mega Drive game. It's a hell of a lot of detail in terms of the scenery and the music and stuff. But I was trying to think about, it's like do you ever play something so much that you kind of take it for granted?
Yeah.
Like, whenever I play something like Sonic 3 or Burnout 3 or Bayonetta, you just kind of play it and you're in your happy place, but you just take it for granted that it's a really good game. So I kind of went back to Sonic 3 a couple of weeks ago to try and play it a bit more analytically and say, like, why is it so good? And it made me think that Sonic 3 and Knuckles is actually the first AAA game. Now, a lot of people are going, ugh, AAA game, but it's got stuff like, it's the first Sonic game to have a proper cinematic narrative. So it starts at the end of Sonic 2, and Sonic kind of touches down on the airplane after he's blown up the Death Egg, right? And there's this continuous story the whole way through it. So unlike 2, where you just kind of jump from zone to zone, this one has little transitions between it, and you've got set pieces where Knuckles will turn up and foil your plans and stuff. And it's kind of it's the first game like that tries to tell a story. If you look at something like, Super Mario World, it just kind of jumps you from level to level, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is that it's got music that was produced with Michael Jackson.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Although, I mean, this is one of these things where I think what happened was he got caught up in the first kind of child molestation charges.
Yeah.
And so the folks at Sega immediately went, oh shit, and incinerated all the documents. So it's hard to know what's what. But they say that he helped consult on some of the music, and if you listen to the music at the end credits of Sonic 3 sounds a lot like Stranger in Moscow. Of the History album. It's very similar. And you can also hear, if you go to the music of, I think it's the launch base zone, it's like the 6th level, you can hear somebody kind of going, making all those kind of Jackson-esque noises. And I'm not sure if it's him, because, it's been butchered by the Mega Drive sound chip. There's little bits like that where you think, okay, I can believe that. But it's like, I've just been kind of trying to properly play it and say, why is this so good? Why is this so much better than, say, Sonic 2? How can I possibly justify this on a podcast? And it's like, to me, it's the sense of scale. It was one of these games where, do you know what parallax scrolling is?
I don't.
Okay, so, have you seen like Avatar, any of those 3D films?
The only kind of 3D films that I've seen that I could really say could probably give it justice is Tron Legacy and,
Okay, that works. So, whenever 3D is done kind of badly, it looks like instead of having a 3D object, you've got a series of 2D objects all kind of moving. Like, it looks like a series of, cardboard people moving back and forward.
Yeah.
If you imagine like that kind of a 2D vignette, that's essentially what parallax scrolling is. So you've got multiple layers of background, and they all move at different speeds relative to the player. So something like a tree will move much more quickly compared to the mountains in the background. And that gives you a feeling of depth, because that's how your eyes help perceive depth. And Sonic 2 has something like 10 different layers of this, and I think Sonic 3 has something like 30 or 40. And so what it means is like whenever you start playing it, it feels like you're actually in a proper world as opposed to just on a wee 2D cartoon land. So there's some of the stages like Hydro City or the Marble Garden, and you kind of fall into the level. And so whenever you're playing like the Labyrinth Zone in the first Sonic game, you're just kind of falling down some ramps, and it's like, oh, fair enough, I'm in a cave. But whenever you're playing the Marble Garden, you're like, holy shit, I'm actually in a canyon here. You can see everything kind of shift around you.
Yeah.
And so things like Sonic looks a bit more rounded. He's a bit fatter in Sonic 3. But part of that is just about giving that depth to the world. So it's like, if you compare it to something like Yoshi's Island, right? It's a really cartoon kind of game, and it feels kind of like flat and pop-up-y. And it's like, it's not ugly, it's just a different style. But Sonic 3 feels really big. There's like a lot of big moments of scale, like get to the Lava Reef Zone, and the Death Egg kind of resurrects and blasts out of the ground, and it looks absolutely enormous. And then whenever you're in the Sky Sanctuary, you can actually see this thing pop up miles away in the distance, and then later on you finally catch up to it, and the thing like it does not fit in the screen. You can kind of see this like black bit of curve in the corner as you finally catch up to it. So it's like, it's very, very good at conveying a sense of the epic in a way that like not a lot of games have done at that time. And like, I was playing Sonic Generations the other week. Now that's not a recommendation. That game is pretty crap. I don't want anybody to think, oh, Sonic Generations, I'll get on that. Alan said it was good. No, I did not. Nah, Sonic Generations is shite. It's just another just another failure.
Sonic Generations is probably the only Sonic game where I think I've actually properly enjoyed. I mean, like, I remember playing through the demo of Generations before the game came out. Like, the demo came out like a couple of months before the full game came out, and I just enjoyed playing that over and over and over and over again, just to try and get a fast time on it.
Just shits in your childhood. Just shits in your childhood. Like, at the first couple of levels are okay. But it just, once you get to that first boss, it all kind of falls apart, which is like a redo of the last boss of Sonic 2. It's just, it's as bad as every other modern Sonic that I swore I wouldn't play after Heroes, and I just keep going back and getting my heart broken every time. But one thing that Sonic Generations does is it gets the sense of scale that's in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It gets that right.
Yeah.
It does the whole Death Egg rising up bit, and it feels properly big. So that's about the only thing I can say about Sonic Generations. Oh, that and the music's really nice.
It's probably worth noting that I have actually fully played Sonic Generations, in case anyone interprets that I've only just played the demo, by the way, because just in case I hadn't made that clear. Now, you mentioned how each Sonic game kind of keeps breaking your heart. That's what's commonly referred to as the Sonic cycle, isn't it?
Yes, that's where they announce a new one and they say it's going to be different this time. We've got either like a new engine, or we're taking the series back to its roots and those kind of things. They even brought out like Sonic 4. Sonic 4. If you told me in like 1995 that Sonic 4 was going to come out, I'd be like, this is the greatest day of my life. But I played the demo for about 5 seconds, like, no, it's just not right. And they get the physics wrong every time.
Like, I was playing Sonic 4 and it just felt off.
It's the sense of inertia is completely wrong. The only one that I've really enjoyed since like the Dreamcast era was Sonic Rush for the DS. Partly because the soundtrack is by Hideki Naganuma that did Jet Set Radio. But also because, it's got a real kind of thrust to it. It's got like a boost button and stuff. And it was just a genuinely good game. But I don't know how they can keep getting it wrong. I don't know how every Mario game in 3D can be really, really good. And every Sonic game in 3D from like the Adventure 2 point onwards can be really, really bad. But they just seem like, it feels like it's being made by some kind of European studio that have a really low budget. It's got a real, what the Josh and Jay podcast guys would call Eurojank feel to it. Where it's just like, it feels a wee bit shoddy, it's really buggy, and you get killed a lot and it's not really your fault, and it never really gels together, and they do stuff like they give you like, ridiculous baddies, and they give Sonic superpowers, like the time they turn him into a werewolf, and the time when he meets the magic space elves that turn him into a rocket and all. It's just ridiculous.
Oh dear.
It just, or they give him like a host of 12 friends, and it's just, I don't know, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to think about it too much. So it's one of these things where you'll just go insane. You can't justify these things. It's like random internet comments. It's better to not think about why these things are the way they are, because you'll just end up weeping for humanity.
You're just losing your sanity instead.
Just a bit, yeah, just a bit. But like, I think what they get wrong, and I think what a lot of internet commentators get wrong, is they don't understand what Sonic's about. And that's pretty bad when you're named Sonic Team. But like, the point of Sonic is precision platforming bits. Yeah. So it is the thrill of getting through a quite tricky gauntlet of like spikes and fireballs and stuff while still maintaining your rings. And what normally happens is you do the hard platform bit, and at the end you get a really speedy bit. So you'll get a spring and it'll blast you around a loop-de-loop or over a corkscrew, or Sonic will jump onto a snowboard or something like that, right? But those bits, there's definite fast bits and there's definite slow bits. But the mistake that the Internet Illuminati and Sonic Team themselves make is they think of Sonic as all about speed.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they shunt you as fast as possible through things. And what that means is, compared to Mario, that means that you need worlds that are about 10 times as big, and therefore probably have more holes in them, because it's harder to test those kind of things. But also, instead of steering a hedgehog, it's like you're steering a boat shaped like a hedgehog, and it becomes really hard to turn and things like that, because your reactions just can't keep up. But a lot of people, when they play Sonic games, they race through them as fast as they can, and then they get hit by things and they die and they go, this is fucking shit. Oh, this is awful. I probably should have asked before we started how much I was going to swear, but you know.
No, go for it. Swear all you want.
Go for it. Okay, I'm starting to go full Irish. So they're like playing this Sonic game. They're like, "This is fucking shit, man." But actually, it's because you're meant to take your time, and the speed comes from learning. It's like whenever you see somebody who can complete Mario Brothers in 5 minutes, and they're like pixel perfect. You know, it's like, and I love watching those speed runs. It's like kind of an art form. Sonic's like that as well. Nobody holds down the run button constantly in Mario and goes, "Oh, this is fucking shit. There's enemies everywhere." That would be, you know, that would be a fallacious thing to do. But also, I think like the sort of Sonic versus Mario comparisons are always a bit baseless. Because they're philosophically different.
Yeah, because like that kind of battle was like that was part of the kind of console wars as well.
That was the first great console war, you know.
Yeah, the kind of part of that big kind of marketing push between Nintendo and Sega, and how Sega does what Nintendo doesn't. So yeah,
and I think Nintendo is what Genesis isn't. But they had things like you know, blast processing and all those cliches. But like, I mean, obviously Sonic is sort of the antithesis of Mario, right? So Mario's he's relatively slow. He gets lots of different powers and stuff, where Sonic is really fast and cool, and his main power is the fact that he's covered in spikes. But what tends to happen with like Mario games is that every stage tends to be one kind of gimmick or technique. So like, oh, here's the level where there's loads of bullet bills. Here's the level where there's loads of moving platforms on weights. Here's the swimmy level, right? And the changing scenery doesn't really matter that much, and the worlds they put you in are pretty much arbitrary. But with something like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, actually, it's more of a continuous thing, and you're gradually building up your skills as you progress. And so those, like, you get lots of little gimmicks, like kind of, I don't know, elevators and weird barrels you have to roll around and stuff. But like, by and large, it's just the same things, only a bit spikier and a bit more difficult. But they're just different games. But this is why I find it hard to get into Mario games, because I want to hold down the run button and blast through them.
So how does the Mario and Sonic relationship today kind of concern for you? Because
they're best buds now, you know. They're
yeah.
the Olympics, and they compete, and Sonic pretends to be slow, so Mario can have a fair race. I don't understand why they do that. Why is it like why would Sonic be able to beat Mario in like the shot put? Why would Mario be able to beat Sonic in a running race? Just let them do what they're good at, you know.
What it must be like when it actually comes to other sports outside the summer games as well.
But you can get them to fight each other in Smash Brothers. Yeah. You can get them to like beat the crap out of each other and everything.
That's right, because Sonic was in Brawl. Brawl.
He was in Brawl. He's in Brawl, yeah.
And he's in the new one now, isn't he?
Yes, he's going to be in whatever they're calling it, Super Smash Brothers for Wii U.
And 3DS.
See, even if people prefer Nintendo games, and I think they're entitled to, you have to admit that they have some shit names for things. The only good name they've ever used was GameCube. Everything else has been pretty poor. And I guess Game Boy's pretty clever, because it's like a play on Walkman. But the rest of them, like, I don't know, everything from, even things like, Super Nintendo is pretty bad. Wii U is pretty bad. 2DS
we're still taking
abominable.
We're still taking the piss out of the Wii name, like, 9 years later?
Quite literally taking the piss out of the Wii. Ayo. But Super Smash Brothers for Wii U really gets your pulse racing, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I would like to buy Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U, please. Okay. It's like the way your parents ask for it when they're going to buy it in a shop.
Like, they don't know which version to get.
But I think, like, to go back to your question, I think Mario games in 3D are just superb. I'm not a big fan of Sunshine, but I think the Galaxy games are probably among the best of the past decade.
I love Galaxy 1, yeah. I think
they're just immaculately crafted, really, really like stunning art direction, fantastic music. So clever and so well focused. Just like pure fun. Really, they really get it. Like Super Mario 3D Land and the 3DS it's the same. It's another really, really good game. But Sonic games in 3D I don't know. Sonic Team used to be one of the best programming teams in the world. Like their Saturn stuff, like Knights and especially Burning Rangers. I'll give a shout out to the two people that have heard of Burning Rangers, but it's basically It's like if I could have one game remade today, it would be Burning Rangers, where you play as a futuristic firefighter. It's basically like, and you've got a jetpack on your back, and it had stuff like, transparency effects, and it had like audio navigation through the levels, and like loads of stuff that just is mind-boggling that you thought that the Saturn just simply could not do. And it like, to be fair, it does get quite warm when you play it, and it does go down to about 20 frames a second at some points. You know, you can see the thing being animated like it's a flick book, but they really knew what they were doing. And even when Sonic Adventure came out for the Dreamcast, it was like the most astounding thing ever. It was just so fast and so good looking. It just blew away anything on the PlayStation. And so it's been a real fall from grace for them, I think.
Like, kind of going back to I know where this episode is going to be solely about Sonic, but like kind of going back to the Mario aspect, do you think I'd be able to get away by saying Mario Galaxy 1 is my generation's Super Mario 64?
No, I don't think you could. And the reason why I don't think you could is because I think, like, I remember whenever Mario 64 first came out, it was about 96, so you would have been.
I would have been 5. So I was 15 when Galaxy came out.
Yeah, so I don't think you can say that, because Mario 64 was a paradigm shift. It was really unbelievable. It was basically the first 3D platformer, or at least, if not the first, it was the first one that mattered. And like, even when you play it today, you think, wow, this is like, for them to nail that like that was pretty incredible. And Mario Galaxy is the latest in a long series of 3D platformers. And so I don't think you can have anything that's big a change now, unless somebody has a game where you can travel back in time, like the first 4D platformer. But I think like, no, I think there'll be very few games that have the impact of Mario 64. It's up there with like, Doom, in terms of the pantheon of absolutely incredible games, or I don't know, Tetris and things like that, you know, the ones that will kind of be remembered forever. And Galaxy is a really, really good update of Mario 64. Pretty much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, definitely.
So I think, like, while it's really outstanding, while it's a really, really good game, I don't know what your generation's Mario 64 would be. I mean, it might be something like Halo. It's another one, like something that really makes you rethink things in a different way. Although, obviously Halo has its detractors, and, you know, we don't need to talk about them because they're wrong. But,
definitely
it's one of those things that really, like, change your opinions of what that medium can do. And I think, like, maybe it would be like BioShock or something like that.
Yeah, I would definitely
say BioShock. Kind of does for narrative and agency what Mario did for just 3D controls. So I think something like, so I'd put something like BioShock. But if I had to pick one, but I'd probably rather not, because the other thing was, you know, 64 only launched with 2 games. You only had Mario 64 and Pilot Wings. How many games did the PS4 launch with? Like 30 or something, you know? It's like, things have changed so much since then, that it's really, I don't know, it's really hard to pin that down. I think, like, not to say it's not good. I think if you start with 1, you should play Galaxy. But it's nice to know. But it's nice to know where you've come from, and for that we have Mario 64.
So kind of slightly moving on. You've talked about the kind of scale of Sonic 3, or at least the scale from its time. Like, but what other elements did you like about the game that kind of stood out for you?
There's so many things. Like, to me, it kind of gets compared to Sonic 2, and in terms of your 64 to Galaxy comparison, I think there's just so much more detail to it. There's a real richness to it. It's things like the controls are absolutely perfect, and 5 minutes of that compared to 5 minutes of Sonic 4, it's really apparent where things have gone wrong. And things like the stages are really, really big, and they're very well designed. So, like, a lot of the previous Sonic games and Mario as well, the stages are very long and not very tall. But Sonic 3 stages have a lot of verticality to them, because you're kind of getting blasted up and around and all over the place. And I also think one of the things that I really took for granted was the music. And those tunes are kind of classics, and you go, oh, those are really good. But if you actually, like, properly think, right, I'm going to analytically listen to this and think, how did they construct this music? That's really, really good. It's really, really impressive. There's so much going on in terms of instruments and things. It's just like, everything about it is just so incredible. And I really like things like, They give you 3 different kinds of shields, so you can turn into a fireball, or you can get the electric shield that attracts rings. But what's really cool is, like, if you get hit while rings are being pulled towards you, they just kind of ping off, and they just kind of roll off, and they've got their own physics, and you can see them, like, properly bouncing. And Sonic Generations can't do that. When you get hit, your rings, like, slide up the walls and everything. It's like they got this a decade ago. So, like, it's just really, really solid. They've really nailed it, and there's stuff like, you play through the first level, which is Angel Island, and after about 2 minutes, the ship just rocks up and burns the place to a cinder. And, like, you obviously, like, it's something like Sonic 2, right? You just kind of get Act 1, Act 2, away you go, next level. This one, things change all the time. It's always mixing it up. Like, yeah, something just rocks up, this boss, and it's only the first stage. It's like, what's this guy doing? He's not meant to be here until Act 2. He just burns the place. And suddenly you're left with this, like, all the trees are on fire, and you can see the heat rippling along the floor and stuff. It's amazing. And then later on in that level, you get attacked by a giant bomber. Just like, and then the best bit is, if you've got Tails as well, he can't keep up with Sonic, and he just gets constantly bombed for like, that's what you get, you bastard. That's me getting my revenge for the special stages in Sonic 2, where you kept getting hit and losing all the rings. But it's just like, it's a really ambitious, epic game. It's packed so much into it, and yeah, in terms of, like, yeah, levels getting blown to bits, and then there's, like, another level where the drill robot rocks up, and then at the end of the stage, at the end of the Marble Garden Zone, Robotnik rocks up, and he just destroys the floor, and you just fall, and you're like, what? Was that it? What was I meant to do? And then suddenly Tails hoists you up into the air, and you have this, like, air battle. It's like, oh, it's brilliant. I just want to hang up on you and go play it now. It's amazing. And then, well, it's just too many good bits. And then there's the bit in, like, the Lava Reef, whenever you have this really weird scrolling section that you don't normally get, where, you're getting lamped by this boss and you can't actually attack, and you have to, like, direct his own bombs into him, and then you end up in space, kind of floating upside down, and you're, like, crashing through an asteroid belt and all. It's like, holy shit, how did they come up with this? This is just blows me away. Like, I remember playing it, you know, whenever I was like, God, I must have been about 8 or 9 years old, and thinking this is amazing. And then, but to go back to it, if it was a decade ago, I would have been about 8. And thinking, wow, this is just so cool. And now I can just look back and think, this is still really, really cool. I still think this is cool. I still think, you know, revving up against the big wheel and watching platforms rock out of the ground is cool. I still think surfing on lava is cool. It's like, I can just play this forever. Get in the big fight with Knuckles and stuff. It's like, it's just great. But it's like, but I just kind of play it in terms of muscle memory now. That's where it's weird. It's just like, you're just shunting through it, and you know every single loop and every jump, and you know exactly where you're going to go, and it doesn't really matter. It's just fun as it is.
You just know each button prompt.
Kind of
in your mind.
I mean, I know the Knuckles bit's less good. And that's quite fun, because you can play through his Knuckles, and he can do stuff like he can punch through walls and climb up them and glide. So you can get to bits you never could get to before. And he has, like, a totally different story arc, because obviously he's not there to mess with you. So he just kind of blasts through. He's like, I'm not, you know, dropping a bomb down here. So it's like, it's just very clever. It's very clever. And I think it was the first game where Sonic Team had moved to the United States, some of them.
Yeah.
So they basically had the Skunkworks team that were like, well, how far can we take the Mega Drive? How far can we really push this? And I think that's probably what just really got them out of their comfort zone to make something I think is really extraordinary. I think that's why it annoys me when people say that Sonic games were never good. It's like, you know, how could you look at this and think it's not good? And it's not me. It's not my nostalgia. It's your critical faculties. They're wrong. So it's absolutely not me.
What about elements you don't like? Surely there's not enough nostalgia there to tint any bias.
I guess if we don't come up with anything that insinuates that it's perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't like that Sega keep re-releasing it for new consoles and guilting me into buying it. That's annoying. I actually own about 4 copies of it. I've got the originals for the Mega Drive. I have Sonic Jam for the Saturn, which is pretty cool because it's not an emulation, it's a port. So it's really nice. It's like the definitive version of the game, I think. And then I've got it for the Xbox Mega Collection, and I've bought them for the 360 and Xbox Live. So I don't have any problems with downloading that for an emulator right now, because I just do not care. I've bought it 4 times. What more do you want? I think what I don't like It's quite tricky. I never really liked the weird bonus stages. Like there's the special stages where you get the Chaos Emeralds and you need those to become supersonic, and that's the only way to get the real ending of the game. But I don't like the wee bonus rounds where whenever you go through a lamppost you get like these, which is your checkpoints. This kind of ring of stars comes up and you can get a bonus game. And it's just really annoying. It's like a scumball machine. It's annoying because you lose whatever shield you had when you went in. But yeah. And then there's a really annoying one with, how do I describe this? You're trapped in a chamber filled with balls, and you have to, you're stuck to these magnetic balls, and you have to kind of use momentum to launch yourself up. And I was just awful at it when I was a kid. I was awful at it, and I could never do it. I've always hated that bit. And every time I get that bonus stage, I always go, oh no, I can't be bothered. One thing is that, in those games you didn't get your handheld, and so sometimes you can get stuck on bits. Like, there is one of the really good levels from Sonic and Knuckles is the Sandopolis zone, which is set in the desert. And you get to this boss where a pyramid rises up out of the ground and this big, golem comes out. And you actually can't kill him. So you can sort of ram into him and he just doesn't get hurt. And you're like, what? And what you're meant to do is you're meant to get him to chase you into a pit of sand before he dies. But there's no actual explanation of that. And it doesn't, that's one of the kind of weird wee bits that are just like, alright, thanks for telling me, dickhead. But, because it doesn't do that in other places. Like, actually, if you go to the Hidden Palace zone before the end, it has a mural of Sonic encased in this yellow fireball attacking Robotnik. And that's telling you that you have to be supersonic to get to the end of the game. And things like that are quite clever, but it doesn't do that all the time. I also don't like the music in Sonic 3. I don't like the title screen music, and I don't like the invincibility music. It's really, really annoying. That's why you have to play it in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, because then you never need to hear that music, but it's just a really, really insufferable 20 seconds. I don't know. It's hard to it's hard to go back and think, oh, what's good and what's bad, because those kind of bad bits, because I've done them so many times, it just kind of blitz through them. I mean, there's certain bits that are like, Sonic tends to get less good whenever he goes underwater, and there's the Carnival Night Zone, which is just like a big fun fair. The second act of it is this underwater slog. I think it's probably the most boring part of the game, because it takes you about 9 minutes to get through it if you get stuck, because you get bounced off bumpers and pinballs, and then you go, all right, okay, I've made it to the end, and then you've got this boss that takes quite a long time to kill, because you don't get many opportunities to hit him, and you can end up running out of time. So you can imagine if you've played to that for 10 minutes, getting killed and having to do it again is a little bit too much to bear. But I think on the whole it's pretty consistently good. I think that's me really nitpicking. That's me really scraping the barrel. I think because you can think about loads of games that have annoying bits, like Half-Life has that awful alien world bit at the end. That's because I've made a list I've made a list of the games that got away, and I can think of all the annoying bits. Streets of Rage, the bit where you have to fight all the bosses in the elevator at the end. It was really, really challenging. So it's but it doesn't have that many bad bits. The one, I think, quite a few people would probably say the worst bit is the notorious floating barrel. And that's again in the Carnival Night. And what happens is you go into this room, locks a door behind you, and you just got a barrel. And the way to get out is you press up and down on the direction pad, and it gradually moves the barrel up and down, because it's kind of floating in space. And after a while, you build up enough momentum that the barrel drops through the floor and you can jump off. And I remember when the game came out for about 3 months after, all the tips sections in the magazines had to explain how to do the barrel in Sonic 3. So that was kind of the days before the internet, so you had no choice but to look up a tips guide, And I don't think I ever got stuck on it, but God, people must have been infuriated. Imagine if that was the only game you had, you were stuck in this friggin' barrel, especially because if you jump off it kind of shifts a little bit. So there must have been people jumping up and down on that thing for years. There's probably somebody who still never finished it.
Oh.
Never. He's just still jumping on that barrel, crying himself to sleep every single night.
In the fetal position, just throwing the cartridge up against the wall each night, going, why can I not pass this?
But actually, a lot of the games of that era were pretty tight because there was a lot fewer variables. I don't remember having as many frustrating experiences with old games, and even when I'm playing old games now on the 3DS, I've never been annoyed by something like Mega Man or Super Mario Brothers as much as I've been annoyed by something like, I don't know, Ninja Gaiden 2. It's probably the most annoying game I've ever played. It's one of the games I've had to stop playing. Or any modern Sonic. like the adventure games can sometimes be, you know, controller out the window kind of things. But I genuinely think those older ones just had a lot less going on. They were a lot more polished. So maybe that's why, yeah, maybe the rose tinted glasses are accurate. I don't know. maybe things really were better in the past.
So if I had to ask, what would be your top 3 Sonic games then? Obviously Sonic and Knuckles be up there, but
the top 3 are the first 3 Sonic games would be, I think 3 and Knuckles is probably the best, and then I would just be tossing a coin between 1 and 2.
So
they're easily the top 3, the original trilogy, and I don't think it's fair to count Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles as 2 separate games. I've now decided that they are one. They are one. It's a bit like, I don't know. It's kind of like Mass Effect. Like, yeah, there are 3 separate games, but they're really, you know, they're one holistic trilogy, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
I think, like, yeah, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best. Finally. I can finally admit this to myself that it's the best. And then I think either of, 1 and 2 are really good. I think if you had never played any of them, I would probably start with 2. Start with 2, and then I would play 3 and Knuckles. Because 1 is a little bit more slow paced, and, you know, it's probably not as good as the other 2, but I still think it's still a classic. But 2's are really, it's a more accessible one. It's a lot faster than 1. And it's not quite as punishing. So I think it's probably the way to go. But 3 and Knuckles is the best. And then after that, all you've really got is like the Dreamcast ones and Sonic Spinball, which is a pile of crap. It's the pinball spin-off. It's just, it's not. I played a lot of that when I was a kid, and it's not good.
That's a very straightforward decision to putting together that top 3.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. I think, like, since the Mega Drive, the best one is probably Sonic Rush. And I think Sonic Adventure 2 is pretty good too. The Adventure 1 is a bit annoying now, but if you could only play 1 that didn't come out in the Sega console, the only answer is Sonic Rush.
Talk about your honourable mentions. So, what do you have first?
Well, I mean, as much as I love Sonic 3, I think the best game ever made is Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Sega Saturn. I was kind of weighing up whether I would talk about either of those, but I thought Sonic 3 would be more fun. I think it's the best video game ever made. But perhaps not quite my favourite, but, you know, take it or leave it either day. My other favourite ones I wrote down are Shenmue 2, and I love both the Shenmue games, and I think I was holding out for Shenmue 3 more than most.
I think everybody did, let's be honest.
I think everybody did, yeah.
But I was like, dead.
Yeah, but I was just shouting Landy after the press conference. I think Streets of Rage 2 for the Mega Drive, which I'm sure somebody will talk about at some point, is also one of the best games ever made. It probably is flawless. It's definitely got the best soundtrack ever. Also really love the original Half-Life. And to round off 5 that got away, I'd go for Metroid Prime in the GameCube, which is another close to perfect game. I think Metroid Prime is probably like the most convincing world that a game's ever made. You actually really, really feel like you're on an alien planet. You feel like you really are Samus. And I normally hate people saying that because it's so disingenuous, but I think it's like really, really, really atmospheric and impressive, and it still holds up today. It's still like a phenomenal game.
I still got to play the Metroid Prime collection because I have a sealed copy in my
of the trilogy.
Of the trilogy, yeah, 1 through 3.
I don't know why you're speaking to me when you could be playing Metroid Prime. I really don't. You've wasted an evening. No, you need to get on that.
I think I've wasted my life now when you put it like that.
Quite possibly. But it's Metroid Prime's a masterpiece. Any of those games, I would say, any of those could, on a particular day, be my favorite game ever. Really, but it always comes back to Sonic. So, Panzer Saga is a JRPG that came out for the Sega Saturn in 1998. And it is quite rare, so I think you probably pay over £100 for it now because they didn't release that many copies. And it's hard to describe. It's like, so the Panzer Dragoon games are these rail shooters, but Saga isn't. It's a Japanese RPG, and it's this really great battle system where you're on the back of the dragon. It's all about positioning, so you can circle around enemies while you're fighting and kind of gained advantages over them. But I think it's an incredible story, and it's a really haunted world. And given whenever it came out, and it seemed like Sega was really going down the pan, it really kind of captures the kind of loneliness I felt whenever I was playing it. the feeling of you somehow getting it wrong, but it's just a really beautiful game. It's got really lovely art design, really beautiful soundtrack. It's got really interesting characters, and it's all like, it has like its own weird language, so it just feels completely otherworldly. It just feels really, really unique. And for whatever reason, it just kind of got stuck in my mind. And I think I honestly can't think of anything that is not good about it. And if I'd done this, you said, what do you think's bad about it? I'd be like, nothing. The only thing that's bad about it is that, the original assets have been lost. So it can't actually be remade for another platform.
Yeah.
And because the Saturn is, without going into too much detail, I heard that what happened was Sega saw the specifications for the PlayStation and they went, uh-oh. So they just put 2 of everything into the Saturn. So it's got 2 main processors and 2 main graphics processors. And that's why it was so notoriously hard to program for. And that's why, it is very hard to emulate. At least that's what I heard. And so yeah, because it's not as popular as like the PlayStation or the 64, there was never a real push to emulate it. So a lot of these games have kind of been lost to the mists of time. I think it's well worth seeking out for JRPG fans. It's kind of one of these games like, Snatcher, the Kojima game for the Mega CD.
Yeah.
Panzer Saga is kind of like the Saturn's Snatcher, I would say. In terms of rareness versus quality. It's like really rare, but it's actually worth getting. It's not rare, but kind of shite. It's not something to keep on the shelf. It's something like my copy is battered. Like the box is absolutely knackered because I've played through it about 3 or 4 times, but I think it's really exceptional. And I wish that I should probably do a super long Let's Play because I think more people deserve to know about it and why it's such a good game. It's one of these things, I could write a book about it, but nobody would read it because nobody's played that game. But it's really, really excellent. Shenmue 2, it's probably more well known, and Shenmue 2 is quite a personal game to me because I played it during the time of my parents' separation. And so I had a lot of feelings going on when I finished that game. But also because, it really was the last great Sega game before they stopped manufacturing consoles. And to me, Shenmue kind of represents the death of childhood.
Wow.
That probably sounds a bit melodramatic.
No.
Like I was 16 and it kind of felt like everything I knew was falling apart at the time. And then you had this incredible game with the biggest cliffhanger ever. But Shenmue 2 is full of great bits. There's the fantastic bit when you have to fight your way up like 50 floors of a building. It's just constant fights, just constantly kicking people's asses, and you finally get to fight Lan Di at the top of a skyscraper. It's mind blowing, and the amount of detail they've put into the world, and it's got really, really great characters, and like, it's just stuff full of like arcade machines and things. Just think, what are they thinking? That would never get approved today. No. Nobody, like, you play as a Japanese teenager in 1986, and you get to walk around town and like, get a job driving a forklift, and, airing out books, and you get to learn martial arts moves. People are like, piss off, nobody's gonna buy this. This is how many million? 70 million? It's still like the most expensive game ever made. Pretty sure.
Do you think, like, if Suzuki went and did a Kickstarter right now for it, it'll easily be funded, no problem. The question is, how much will be the target?
I would give a kidney to get Shenmue 3, right? What are they worth? 7,000? I would do anything to play that game. Really. But I think that he would also really like to release it, but it's just like... would it really live up to all of our expectations? Is that possible? It's a bit like Half-Life 3, isn't it?
It's a bit yeah, sorry. No, I was just gonna say it's a bit like Zone of the Enders 3 for me.
Yeah, it's like I think Zone of the Enders 3 could possibly work.
Or even Last Guardian.
Oh god. Well, Last Guardian, you're relying on a couple of trailers. I think with Shenmue 2 you're relying on like two of the best video games ever made. Like the game that invented, or at least popularized, the QuickTime event. Streets of Rage 2 is just the best scrolling beat 'em up ever. And it's interesting because it's a genre that I don't think works well in 3D. It's like, it just works better in 2 dimensions, and that's why all the good scrollers that are out now are things like Castle Crashers and, to a lesser extent, things like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It's, Streets of Rage 2 is an extremely violent game. If you imagine something you can just slice up people with a katana, right? And, smash beer bottles over their head and you get electrocuted and stuff. That only works in a comic book style. And you couldn't do realism in the Mega Drive, right? It was all kind of comic book pulpy. It's good because it's really mechanically perfect. I know people talk about great mechanics, but this is like, it's just so good. You can like, whenever you've played it for a while, you can get really into the zone. You can have enemies wherever you want them, and you can throw them over their backs into their friends. And it's always mixing things up, like fire-breathing people and ninjas and kickboxers and stuff. But mainly Streets of Rage 2 is the best game soundtrack ever, with a pretty good game attached to it. Because it's Koshiro, who also did Ys is one of the ones he's famous for. But he also, like, the Streets of Rage 2 and 3 soundtracks are just, Streets of Rage 2 is kind of like 90s dance music and trance and stuff. And actually, but 3 is like really obscure. It's kind of like before like Deadmau5 and I don't know, like kind of interesting EDM type stuff. Like it was all electronically generated, but he was just a real visionary composer. So he's got the best music ever. You get to beat people to a pulp, and you get to fun with your friends. So you need. I'm sure if Dave's covering with you, he'll be much more eloquent than I am. I did a video on it before, Streets of Rage 2, and why I thought it was so good. But it's just like, I don't know, it just really captures the zeitgeist of what Sega games are about. Really bright, loud, brash characters and thumping music, and something that's just fundamentally fun. There's Metroid and there's Half-Life, yeah. So, well, Metroid, as I kind of said, yeah. I think Metroid's like, it's a masterclass in level design and world building. And, it's a bit like, one of the other games I really like is Arkham Asylum. I think it's much better than City because it's very good at having a contained world where everything flows really coherently. But it gets that from Metroid Prime. And the Metroid games, it's kind of this whole thing about Metroidvania, but actually it's really just Metroid, isn't it? It's not really Castlevania. A lot of them have been quite linear. But with the Metroid games, it's always about peeling your way through this like onion world and getting new bits. You'll go, oh, I can't open that door. And then you'll get some missiles and you'll go back and you'll gradually get deeper and deeper into the game. And Prime does that really, really well in 3D. It's also quite good at building lore. Because like, the Metroid games didn't really have that much to them until Prime, but there's a whole lot about the Chozo race, and you learn a bit more about how Samus was created and what's happened to this planet, and whenever you get this kind of desolate, so as well as being, Samus is kind of an explorer, but also an archaeologist. And I like it, you can scan everything, there's like information everywhere, and you can learn about, the space pirates and what they've been up to, but it's just great whenever you find like little shortcuts and bits that snake back on themselves, and areas you've never been to before, and stuff like, it's got a lot of like really nice details. Like kind of, you get to the first area of the overworld and it's just mist pouring down and your visor steams up. And if you charge up a beam and fire it, you can see Samus's eyes reflected inside the visor of her suit and stuff like that, and things getting like a nice crusty frost on top of them when they freeze up and all. It's really, really beautiful. They've thought of every single detail. It's just really, really good. It's really, really good. And even like, stuff like, it's a kind of got a weird lock-on controls. I've played it for the GameCube and the Wii, and I think the Wii version is, one's as good as the other, but I think the Wii one's probably the one to go for, just because the pointy-aiming controls are probably a little bit easier. Yeah, no, I think it's just a really perfectly built world. It's just, Retro Studios knew exactly what they were doing. They're like absolutely at the top of their game, just giving you a masterclass in how these kind of things are done. I could just play it forever and ever. It's great. Well, everybody likes Half-Life, don't they? And like,
everyone likes Half-Life 2.
Yeah, everybody likes Half-Life 2.
Oh, wow.
You mean Half-Life? Do you mean everybody likes Half-Life as well, or everybody likes Half-Life the sequel? Because I find it hard to pick both. I think again, Half-Life 2 is the Metroid Prime of linear first-person shooters, where it's just these guys know exactly what they're doing and they're showing you exactly how you should build a video game. It's like a perfectly crafted modern one. But for me, Half-Life is kind of like, Half-Life is to first-person shooters what Mario 64 was to platform games, if you like. because nobody had really done proper narrative in a game before. Like, obviously I wrote a whole book about Unreal, and I'm very fond of it, and it came out a few months before Half-Life. But in terms of things like the AI and actually telling a story in a game and cutscenes and without taking you out of the character's point of view was one of the things Half-Life did really, really well.
Definitely, yeah.
Compared to something like, Call of Duty and stuff. But those set pieces that everybody hates now were popularized by Half-Life. But it's just got so many great moments. Apart from the fact that it's a really solid first-person shooter, it's got so many bits that stick in the memory. Valve are really good at creating these amazing set pieces, like the bit when you go into the blast pit, and the tentacle just like sort of slashes through the wall and totally pins the scientist to the wall and then drags him in, and the fact that thing was invincible and you had to like scorch it to death, or there's one where you get kidnapped by assassins and chucked into a trash compactor, and and suddenly you get attacked by a helicopter on the side of a cliff. It's like, when you think about something like Metroid Prime, it's more about a holistic experience, right? Or any of the other ones I've mentioned, Sonic 3 as well. They're all games where you remember the whole thing. But Half-Life, you remember so many perfect moments over the course of a game. Like when you go to the office complex and the floor's all flooded and electrocuted and all, and it's really good at world building, and it's good at telling a story through the environment. But it's just so many memorable moments. And I think Half-Life 2 does that as well, but possibly not quite as good. Like Half-Life 2, you can think of it, it's like when you go into the prison and you shoot a toilet at somebody for the first time. That's always fun. And then you've got like the motorboat bit and the car bit, and if you go to after you leave Nova Prospekt and you go to the Citadel, it's got loads of good bits. But Half-Life has like unforgettable moments. Like, oh yeah, I went to Wavering Home and it was really good. This is like, oh, I can't believe that bit when I was sliding around the freezer getting attacked by the squids and all. Half-Life was just about 5 years ahead of the curve. And that's pretty much what happened. Was it Half-Life came out in 98 and everybody was like completely wrong-footed. But then also multiplayer gaming became more popular, so you had like, Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 and Counter-Strike around that time as well.
Yeah.
A couple of years later. But then people had only just started to do more narrative games, things like Halo and stuff like that. And then Half-Life 2 came out, like the same year as Halo 2. And Halo 2 is very much a sequel to Halo. But Half-Life 2 just ratchets everything up to ludicrous levels. That's why there shouldn't be a Half-Life 3. Because it will never be as good as that game.
What? Even with that cliffhanger at the end?
I know the Hangover.
I almost said Hangover myself, to be honest.
I know the cliffhanger from Half-Life 2 episode 3 is like totally but yeah. But Shenmue 2 also has a big cliffhanger. Maybe it would be better not to have a sequel to, maybe there shouldn't be a Shenmue 3 or a Half-Life 3. It's interesting though that out of the games I picked, 2 of them end on ludicrous cliffhangers. The main things I'm doing right now is obviously I do 5 out of 10, which is a really nice video game culture magazine. And if you like that, you'll love this. If you've managed to make it through this podcast, you deserve a treat. So why not buy yourself a copy of 5 out of 10? And the website for it's www.5out10magazine.com. There's also a book, What I Did, it's called Escape to Nepali, A Journey to the Unreal. And it's also available from that website. And it's, if you want a deep dive into something that looks at a game from a lot of different critical angles, it's really good. Soon to be followed by Sonic 3 and Knuckles, My Childhood Destroyed, which will be out in 2015.
Thanks for listening to My Favourite Game. Next week, the season finale, Tom Bramwell on Quake. Until next week, bye bye.